So I was recently involved with purchasing, um, some basic engineering software for my job. Started a new job. They didn't have, CAD or analysis software, which left it pretty open to suggest whatever I thought we needed and to kind of look at a whole gamut of analysis software and anything else needed. And it made me really look back and reflect on like all the software that I've used in the past and how it is now. The there's a lot of CAD now. There's a lot more CAD available than there used to be when I learned CAD, and it's changed a lot. I've mostly used SolidWorks, and that's been for my entire professional career. So now that's been, I don't know, what is that, 20 something years now that I've been using SolidWorks. And the interface has changed some, but the basic tools still have the same look. It hasn't been had this huge shift in how everything looks. That's not the case with something like, say, ANSYS. ANSYS has been around a long time, and in fact, I didn't jump on the very earliest with ANSYS, but they had something called Design Modeler, which was more classic kind of 20-year-old interface kind of CAD system to make geometry for finite element analysis. Then they moved to Space Claim, which I didn't like the workflow of it, and I was so used to SolidWorks, I had a hard time adapting to it, and I couldn't figure out how to like do simple things like make simple lines with then turn them into beams, or plates and shells really simple without starting with a CAD existing CAD thing and reducing them. I was used to using Design Modeler or even Abacus to just draw simple lines and say that's a beam, mesh it as a beam, run it as a beam, or like rotate this, make it a shell, and analyze it as a shell, because it's very useful for initial models when you're trying to understand the larger effects of things. You don't want to do a solid model. You don't want to have to mesh that and waste the computer time on it. Well, now ANSYS has Discovery, which lets you do these things, and it's a kind of similar, for what I remember Space Claim being, but I can actually use it. I'm not a super big fan of the interface. It doesn't have the same simplicity of actions. You have to click a lot. At least I don't know how to use it yet, to where I'm not clicking all the time to try to like add a dimension or something and change the dimension. There's a few more clicks or a few more steps involved that I'm not a fan of, but it seems to work pretty well, and it seems to be able to run things like CFD pretty easily, which I'm a bit worried about, because is this junk analysis now? Is it real? Is it using Fluent? And I'm just got access to it last week, so on Friday, so I haven't really had a lot of time to explore it. But it's just crazy to me how much things have changed. And I've used a lot of CAD programs. There's even things like Alibre, which I've used a little bit. That's kind of similar to SolidWorks. There's in a smaller company. There's things like Onshape, which I've used very, very little. There's Shaper 3D, which is more for really based off of an iPad, and it's really interesting to use, an iPad to like make CAD files, but it seems to work pretty well. I've used it a little bit just to make some little hobby things and to do some 3D printing, and it seems to work just fine, especially because I'm using an Apple Pencil and not really using a keyboard that much or a mouse. I'm just using like a pencil to do work, and it's just crazy to me how different it is. Because I mean, I've programmed finite element code, I've programmed a little bit of CAD, I've programmed a little bit of CFD, and I've used them all, and I have to use them all with my job. And it's been that way for a while. There was a period the last few years where I was doing more document writing and way less analysis, and I got really tired of it because I wasn't doing anything interesting. And now I'll just say that I've got my current project. I'm going to be doing CFD, and I'm going to be doing science CFD, where I'm doing multi-phase flow and I'm doing phase change, which is interesting. And I have to do a thermal analysis to it and a mechanical side of that. And I'm also having to learn LS-DYNA, because I'm looking at collisions of certain things, which I've never done before. I've looked at collisions from like a simple, way back in ANSYS, like, vibrations and really simplified analysis and a lot of assumptions behind it, but um, more like vibration or just dynamic analysis, but it wasn't like explicit, like actually looking at like large deformation collisions like you look at in LS-DYNA. But I was looking at it, and a lot of that interface is still like from 20 years ago, and it has to hook up to Discovery. Or you can look at like these older CAD programs that are still built in ANSYS and hook it up to that, but the interface is still not quite there. And so since I never used it, it looked like it was a different branch that was probably brought into ANSYS at some point. And it takes some learning to get your head wrapped around what you need to do. And my first attempt, I was not successful getting something to run, just doing things like I think they should work, but I can figure that out. But it's just funny to me that there's all this old software that is still usable, but they're like Design Modeler and ANSYS are like, yeah, this has been around for 20 years, but we're going to stop supporting it. So we're not going to update anymore. If there's any bugs, we're not going to fix them. We're going to stop, updating it for new versions of Windows. It's going to be sunsetted. Same thing with Space Claim, which is probably 10 years old now. They're getting rid of that, and they're all moving to Discovery on ANSYS, which may be fine, but I don't know. There's something about feeling, I think, of the new programs when you're talking about things like Discovery and you're thinking about some of the more fancy, newer things that they're simplified, really. They might have a lot of power, but you have to really work hard to get to that power. It feels like you don't have a lot of control over it. And with AI getting involved with some CAD stuff, I kind of wonder, like, are we going to get in trouble with not being able to fine tune things by hand and not really understand what's going on? But I was just having all these thoughts when I was trying to relearn ANSYS because I haven't touched it in a few years, and then learn these new tools like LS-DYNA that I haven't touched in a while. It's just, the industry has shifted. It's definitely different than it was a while ago. The fundamentals are still there, but it feels like there's this gap between what you're trying to do and what your thought is, and using it. Whereas before, if you knew where the button was and if you knew where the menu was, you could just click, 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 click. And now it just feels like you're slowed because there aren't the keyboard shortcuts, or doesn't, at least I'm not aware of it. It just feels like there's something extra, some extra steps, and it simplifies things to make certain things easier. You can really quickly like drag and drop, drag, and make like a shape really quick in Discovery, and then run a FEM, and it'll run a FEM amazingly well. It'll split it between a GPU and a CPU, and bam, it'll spit out analysis. But it's like, did I just do that? Can I even trust this? Like, what did the program actually do? Because there's a lot of things hidden behind the scenes that it's doing for you that did not do for you before, and it just makes me skeptical of everything. It makes me want to make sure that all my hand calcs and my FEM are kind of lined up and make some sense, because otherwise I just don't believe it. Like, is this actually real? And I don't know how many people here actually, are interested in this part of my life, because most of my stuff is windsurf videos, but I thought I would share those thoughts. And I think I'd also share, I've got a newsletter. I'm going to put a link for it in the description if you're interested. I write about some things sometimes. It's nothing too crazy. I'm talking about more in depth about some design things I did that I can talk about now, and just my general thoughts on things. But if you're interested, check it out. And I don't know, hopefully I'll make some more windsurfing videos or something later, or maybe something more interesting about design. I'm not sure.